Lebo Mazibuko is a passionate writer, poet and storyteller who's just published a debut novel titled Bantu Knots. This is a coming-of-age tale of a young girl named Naledi who daydreams about womanhood and trading her Bantu knots for a straighter long hair that can be tied into a phondo. Bantu Knots explores pertinent themes such as beauty, complicated mother-daughter relationships, identity crisis, rejection, forgiveness, and many others. And to take this conversation further, let's now rope in its author, Lebo Mazibuko. Lebo, a very good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to Morning Live.
Good morning, Sophia. How are you?
I'm very well, Lebo. Good to have you on the show this morning. How are you?
I'm great.
Good stuff. Now, give us your own description of what this book is all about and where the idea for it came from.
Well, Bantu Knots is a coming-of-age story. The readers get to follow the journey of a young girl by the name of Naledi from about the ages of 12 to 21. And essentially, these are the years where a young girl transitions into becoming a woman. So we deal with issues about womanhood. And Naledi lives with her grandmother and her mother. Her father is not necessarily there because he doesn't claim Naledi as his own and denies her. And Naledi is raised by her grandmother, but more so than her mother, who she is living within the house with them, but is not as present as she should be, which is where the readers get to explore the complexities between mother and daughter relationships. But overall, Bantu Knots is about self-discovery, and it is about a young woman finding her voice in a world where culture and religion dictates to women who and what they should be.
Yeah, and just looking at this book's jacket on its own, I can tell that there's a depth to the story it contains. Now, take us through this beautiful cover and its significance to the story.
Well, on the cover, I would like to think that that's Naledi, a beautiful representation of who she is. Bantu Knots is a literal and figurative title. Naledi is a girl with Bantu Knots, and she is known by umnyamani with the Bantu Knots, and that sort of becomes her identity. And we basically are uncovering beauty ideals within the Black community. You know, the title of being called umnyamani means you're the dark one, you know, and Naledi, in as much as she has daddy issues because her father is not present, she also has mommy issues. So she's constantly searching for some sort of affirmation about who she is she lovable, is she beautiful? And we're dealing with all those sort of dynamics, you know, and she sort of wants love, and she'll get love wherever she can get it from. Yeah. And also, Bantu Knots is figurative in the sense that it's a book that deals with the many different issues that ties us together as women, Black women specifically.
Yeah, and amongst those, and I see that African hair is evidently at the core of the story, and we see it in how Naledi talks about how her Bantu Knots and her friend Cindy's afro are no match for the long straight hair that other kids have.
That's true. I think hair is a big subject amongst Black women, and even Black men jump into this topic about, you know, especially as Black women, the identity of wearing our hair naturally signifies our pride as being African women. And I think in a modern world where women are trying to define for themselves who they are, what they want to be, we are unpacking those layers of weaves, short hair, long hair. And, you know, does this mean that I'm not African if my hair is not natural? Does it mean that I'm not proud of who I am as a Black woman because I'm wearing a white woman's hair, quote unquote, you know, because that's how some people view weaves and wigs and all that stuff.
Yeah. And I've also mentioned some of the themes that are highlighted in the book. Just elaborate more on them and how you've used Naledi's story and journey in the book to address these themes.
Yeah, we talk a lot about womanhood, and part of the journey of being a woman is discovering your sexuality as well. And I think one of the main objectives for this book was to get women talking, women of different generations. In the book, we have three generations of women: a grandmother, a mother, and a daughter. And sexuality is such a big topic in a woman's life, but this is a topic that is not discussed. And I think in most Black households, it's tied to shame. You know, there's some sort of shame that's connected to sex and relationships and our bodies, you know. And I want to get people talking through this book about those various issues, because you'd find that most young girls have experienced some form of sexual, physical, and emotional abuse. And you are sitting with these women, with these young girls in your home every day, having dinner with them, and you don't even know that they're carrying that sort of pain with them.
Yeah, and what's also noteworthy is that complex relationship between Naledi, her and her mother, Dino, which are found to be a true reflection, of so many households in this country, Lebo. And I was instantly captured from the opening chapter of this book. And just talk to us about the cultural dynamics you address in this book, especially that broom moment between Naledi, her grandmother, Mama Nora, and the broom at the beginning of this book.
Yeah, it's such an interesting thing, because I've heard a lot of Black girls who've gone through it, where they boobs get swept. There's rites of passages that we all sort of go through, but there's never an explanation behind what does this mean. Later on in your life, you sort of figure out that, okay, I guess this is part of the process of my becoming a woman, but why are my boobs being swept? Is it, and these are questions that Naledi questions, is it to make my boobs grow, or are my boobs growing too fast? But she can't voice this out, and this brings us back to the thing of sexuality, especially within religious and in a cultural setup. We all have to go through these things, but nobody wants to clearly and openly have conversation and dialogue about them.
Sure. Lebo, I found this book to be very relatable, brutally honest at the same time, yet heartbreaking and witty at times, but also careful in just how it sort of addresses African culture, customs and traditions, especially relating to young women and girls. Speak to us more about this.
Yeah, it's as much as we're dealing with, I guess, a heavy subject matter, it was important for me to make it as fun as possible, not too heavy. I think we're dealing with a lot of heavy things, with COVID, and the world is in a very heavy state. So it's a very fun book. Naledi is a feisty kind of character. It takes her a long time to sort of come into herself and to come into her own and to own her voice. But in dealing with cultural and religious belief systems that have been placed, especially upon women, and there is, I guess, a thin line that we have to walk in sort of trying to respect it, but also we must question it. It's important, because these are battles that we have within ourselves of, the role of a woman within a household. Young girls are taught from a young age that you must cook, you must clean, you must take care of the babies. And in essence, we are training women to become wives without saying it, and in a modern world where girls have to work just as hard as men. In the past, men were the breadwinners and women stayed home. So these sort of cultural systems worked in that time. Sure. But in today's generation, why are we not also teaching our sons, to cook and clean and take care of the kids? Because these responsibilities have to be shared. So these are the different dynamics that we're exploring, and the different themes and conversations that we're trying to get people talking about and questioning, more openly, not just behind closed doors.
Lebo Mazibuko, lovely chatting to you. Thank you so much. This is such a brilliant read and a quite scintillating, might I add. Because it may be fiction, but it is a true reflection of our lived experiences. Thank you so much for joining us. And I do understand that it will be launched this week. So where can we get a copy?
Yes, copies are available at Exclusive Books and at Bargain Books. People can also follow me online. On Instagram, I am Tales by Lebo Mazibuko. And on Facebook, you can just drop me a DM or an inbox. If you have any questions, it's Lebo Mazibuko.
Okay, Lebo, have a lovely day. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Simpiwe.